Hello, friends. Have you unlocked the lockdown yet? To say COVID 19 has disrupted the way we live, the way we work, and the way we play would be a huge understatement. In fact, the world has come to a standstill. It is, in fact, a God given break from the so called human race. And interestingly, it has thrown a lot of characters around us. The first character, the brave ones, are actually fighting in the field. Hats off to those healthcare professionals who are actually fighting COVID 19. The fearful ones are actually focusing on the negative news. The kind ones are trying to help the needy ones in the little possible way. And for those who actually got stuck at home, like me in the lockdown, we have no option but to empower ourselves and make most of it. With this premise, the Empower series, a series of unheard leadership mantras packed in a webinar, is born. Friends, my name is Meg Risaldar. I'm the Chief Experience Officer for Enable HR Advisory Services, a part of 11-year-old global HR and advisory firm called The Strategist. So when we were brainstorming about how we can help people during this lockdown, we thought of Empower series, a series of unheard mantras. We want to make every Friday count. Every Friday we'll come at 4 o'clock for a 60-minute power-packed session. It is going to be engaging. Where we will have polls, we'll have pre-read material. It's going to be interesting. And it is going to come in a variety of forms. So let me not reveal what formats we're going to follow. But yes, for next few weeks, you can see a workshop mode wherein our experts will actually expose you to the unheard leadership mantras. Another series is going to be, not series, but it's a part of Empower series. Another format is going to be a Rubaru sessions, wherein we'll call the experts and through the live chit chats, they're going to throw light on some of their past experiences and help us to sort of, unlock the lockdown by sharing the unheard mantras of leadership. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned and let's empower ourselves and let's unlock this lockdown. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, now it's now time to introduce a scholar speaker who is all set to help us discover the power of pause, as I call it. Please join me in welcoming Dinah, a PhD in counseling psychology, and has been in practicing for about 2 decades now. For about 8 years, she practiced in US, and she returned to India when this country needed her the most in 2008, a year of global recession. And today, I mean, she has been living in this wonderful city, Hyderabad, for 12 years now. She heads the Hyderabad Academy of Psychology. So without further ado, let's discover the power of pause. Dinah, over to you.
Thank you, Meg. Welcome to you all, and thank you for the opportunity to engage with you all today. So thanks for that great introduction, Meg. I've been in Hyderabad my whole life. I only spent a decade in America, so I'm a Hyderabadi Telangana girl, I should say, according to the Telugu I speak, apparently. Now, I'd like to start really by telling you a little bit about myself as well as what I do. So since Meg already gave you a lovely introduction about myself, I'll just tell you, I always start programs with this idea of a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And honestly, I did this, I did talks for a group of doctors a while ago, many years ago in our city. And I asked them what the difference is between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. And what they couldn't come up with the difference, unfortunately. So since then, I always use my first part of my talks to give this information out to people because I think it's kind of important to know. A psychiatrist is actually a medical doctor who prescribes medication. So you need a medical degree for that. And they are trained in some counseling. A psychologist, which is me, that's how we look, by the way, is a person who typically gets a degree in doing talk therapy. So, if you came to me and you really needed medication, what I would do is refer you to an appropriate doctor if needed. But many problems are treatable just by talking about them. And that's what my organization does. We offer counseling services and we do a whole bunch of other things like training, people with things like we're doing today as well with this webinar. And we offer counseling of different sorts, like individual counseling, couples counseling, group counseling. We offer family counseling, child counseling. So if you're curious about our services, reach out to me and I'll be happy to tell you more. Now, that being said, let's get right into things and let me tell you a little about what to expect today during our time together. Right. So, in terms of what to expect today, we're all, as Meg said, and we all know, experiencing the lockdown, and I'm sure we're learning a whole bunch of new things about ourselves, as well as about the people we live with. I think maybe things that we'd forgotten because we weren't around them as much. And what's going to happen today is we're going to talk about mental health and mental well-being. That really starts with you assessing your own mental health and well-being. So we're going to do that today. And please know that everything I tell you today is based off psychological research that's been conducted the world over. So it's factually based stuff. It's not just an opinion, right? And everything is usable and generalizable in multiple ways. So with your family members, with your colleagues, with your bosses, with anyone in your life, really. Now, of course, I don't recommend that you diagnose anyone after what you learned today because that won't go well for your social relationships. But it's certainly fun to understand people in our lives better. So the best way to do that today is to really, interact with the material, to introspect and to learn about yourself. When you do that, then you can inculcate this material into your life. Now, as it says on your slide, well-being is not really a to-do list. And one of my favorite things to request to get is from corporates who tell me, come and do stress management in an hour. And when I do a talk in an hour, I always feel like people end up expecting I'm going to give them these brilliant tips that are going to fix their lives and take away stress. And that's not how anything works. So nothing is a quick fix, like you all know, and everything takes commitment and effort and time and patience. So the good thing, though, of course, is when you introspect and then inculcate psychologically, you make really lasting positive changes for yourself. So that being said, we're going to start with actually some fun research questions I'd like you all to answer about well-being. So we will move on to some research questions. And the first one is this, and I think we're going to run a poll, so you can go ahead and answer this question. Which group is the happiest? Married men, married women, single men, or single women? I'll give you a few seconds to click on your answer. Okay, if you're not answering, fantastic. So here are the results. 34% of you said married men, 2% said married women. Oh, you are so very right. It is a very low number for married women. Single men and single women was equal there. Let me tell you what the answer is. The answer, folks, is actually twofold. It's married men or single women. Research suggests that married men are happiest because they actually get taken care of by their wives. While for women, the gender role itself makes it such that they are caretakers often. So if they are single, they often, women have the time and space to take care of themselves. So they are also the happiest. So single men and married women, unfortunately, well-being wise, don't do as well as the other groups. Okay, good job. Next question. Let's go to the next question. What impacts our health more? Difficult relationships with family members or difficult relationships with our spouse or our significant other? Okay, so almost equal there, 48% and 52%. So the answers, as you can see, are people think one or the other. A lot of people often thinks it is their spouse, but actually, those of you who answered difficult relationships with family members is the right answer. The family member relationships actually undermine our health more than a troubled relationship with a spouse. This was basically research done over 2 decades where they studied about 3,000 adults, and they found that increased family relationship stress is associated with more chronic conditions and worse self reported health 10 years later. So your spousal relationship doesn't have that much of an impact on your health, apparently, but your family relationships do. So time to fix our family relationships for us, looks like. Okay, going on to the third question. Okay, true or false? Engaging in extroverted behavior like being talkative and assertive has well being benefits for both extroverts and introverts. Fantastic. Most of you got that one right. So 76% of you said true. And indeed, this is true. You know, in this study, it was very interesting. Researchers told participants that both introverted behavior and extroverted behavior are beneficial. Then they asked the participants, half of them to be talkative, assertive, and spontaneous for one whole week as much as they could. And the other part, half of the participants were told be deliberate, quiet, and reserved. And what happened is the next week they said switch around, and the extroverted become introverted, introverted become extroverted. Participants actually reported increased well-being after the extroversion week and decreased well-being after the introversion week. And this didn't matter in terms of whether they were introverts or extroverts. Just practicing these behaviors seemed to make a difference. So good job for those of you who got it right. And for all you introverts out there, time to practice some talkativeness and assertiveness and spontaneity, looks like. All right, moving on to the next question. Who lives longer, optimist or pessimist? And don't be scared to answer this one depending on how you are like. I will tell you how to uh, be the right way as we go along. Oh, fantastic. 92% of you said optimist and 8% said pessimist. Yes, you are right. The 92% of you is right. Optimists actually live 15% longer than pessimists, is what research says. Now, this research study was interesting. They did it on there was longitudinal studies. So they did it on about 70,000 women and about 1,500 men. And they found that women, in average, if they are optimists, they live about 15% longer than their less optimistic peers, while men lived about 11% longer than their less optimistic peers. We already know women do outlive men, and optimism and pessimism does seem to make a difference. So this suggests that if you have an optimistic mindset, then you live a better lifestyle because you live better, healthy behaviors, and that promotes your well-being for a longer time. Right. Moving on to the next question. Having a job can boost mental well-being, but how long do you need to work to reap those rewards? Is it 1 day or less a week, 2 to 3 days a week, 4 to 5 days a week, or more than 5 to about 7 days a week? Okay, so the answers were all over the place, and it was about 4 to 5 days a week, which is 72% of you answered. You know that this is a really interesting one, and this one, know that firstly, having a job does boost your mental well-being, but for many people, it takes no more than just one day of work per week to reap those rewards. Researchers studied about 70,000 people, and they found that if people move from unemployment or to home-based caregiving into work, their risk of mental health dropped by about 30%. So jobs really make our mental well-being better. But there was very little difference between working one day a week or working 5 days to 7 days a week. So very interesting that only one day a week and you get the mental health benefits. So for all of us who overwork, we really shouldn't be overworking for well-being, but working as much as we do normally and balancedly is a good idea. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Which of the following is true? When people eat off shared plates, they are more likely to cooperate in negotiations. When recipients open a gift, they generally like it less when the giver has wrapped it neatly as opposed to sloppily. Exercising for just 2 hours a week can improve mental health. Exercising more than 90 minutes a day is associated with worse mental health, or all of the above, or none of the above. Wow. Okay, so the answers are kind of all over the place, and all of the above got 33%, and it is indeed the right answer. All indeed are true. Now, let me tell you, this the first one was the most fascinating. When people eat off shared plates, they are much more likely to cooperate in negotiations and actually get to an agreement faster. So the next time you want your team to agree quickly, make sure you give them something out of shared bowls to eat, and you'll get to the agreement faster, apparently, right? And the second part I just threw in there because it was really fun, because I'm terrible at wrapping gifts. But with gift giving, apparently, if you open a perfectly wrapped gift, your expectation of what is in there increases, which makes it less likely that you actually like what you got. While when it's sloppily wrapped, you don't expect much. So you love what you get even more. And exercise wise, and we're going to go over this in another slide in the near future, we all know exercise is good, but research has found people who work out, exercise between 3 to 5 times a week have better mental health than people who exercise less or more each week. So more than 90 minutes a day suggests that maybe you have some obsessive characteristics, and so that could place you at a higher risk for poor mental health, right? So so all of those were indeed true. So let's move on to the last one. Which of the following is true? Does success lead to emotional health, or does emotional health lead to success? Fantastic. Most of you got that one right. It used to be believed that that success would lead to emotional health, and while that it is partly true, really the reality is emotional health leads to success, because what happens is happy people are more likely to work towards their goals. They typically will find the resources they need, and they attract other people with their energy and optimism, which are the key building blocks of success. So, I hope that was helpful in teaching you some little details about psychology and current psychology that's happening the world over, and you can use it in your lives. Now that we're done with these questions, let's get into the nitty-gritties of well-being and of mental health.
Dana, we must thank the participation level. I mean, the speed of response and the number of response. A big thumbs up to all the audiences. I've seen the average response have been in excess of 85%. So to all the participants, thanks. Keep the participation going. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg, and thank you, participants. I really appreciate you participating. It makes my job so much easier to be able to interact with you and share this information. So keep that going, as Meg said. All right, I'm going to go over a few slides about well-being and mental health right now. And really, I am a psychologist, but I love teaching, and my role as a teacher coincides well with my role as a psychologist. And so I would like to really quickly talk about what makes up our physical health and then our mental health. All of us typically, I'm amazed that all of us always are told get physical health checks, and we do. Most of our companies, give us the option of doing it once a year. We check our BP, our heart rate, our blood sugar, our creatinine, all of those things. What makes up our mental health? When I ask people, have you ever done a mental health check? People say, what is that? No, I've never done that. So to do a mental health check, we first need to understand our mind. So that's what we're going to do today with a quick psychology lesson, if you will, right? So psychologically, you see that little circle, and that circle is really what you are made up of psychologically: thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And when I say thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, thinking is what my thoughts are. So, thoughts can be things like, what am I saying right now? I'm listening to what Diana is saying right now. I'm wondering when I can have chai. I wonder what my kids are doing, when the lockdown will end. These are all thoughts, right? Feelings are the emotions that we experience. Now, I'm seeing that maybe I'm not sure if you can see the circle that I'm referring to, but if you can't see the circle that I'm referring to, it's basically just a circle with three equal parts. One says thoughts, one says feelings, and the other says behaviors. That's pretty much what your mind is made up of, right? So with thoughts, it's one little, chunk of a pie, if you will, 1/3 of a pie. The feelings are 1/3 of a pie, and the behaviors are 1/3 of the pie. Now, thoughts we're all very good at because we use them all the time and they're very valued. Feelings are valued for women, and for men, they're told don't feel too much because you're being like a woman. Now, what are feelings? Feelings are just the emotions we experience. I'm excited, I'm sad, I'm tired, I feel sad, hopeful, bored. All of those are feelings. If you say I feel and a blank feeling word, that's a feeling. If you say I feel like, typically you can say I think, because you're not giving a feeling, you're giving a thought, right? The next thing is behaviors, and behaviors is the most straightforward because they're behaviors, actions that we do. Now, actions that we do, like I'm talking to you right now, I'm presenting to you right now, you may be listening, you may be nodding, you exercise during the day, you work, you clean, you cook. These are all the behaviors that you do. Now, these three areas need to stay in sync or be equal to each other in size, because if they're equal to each other, then we are in sync, our mind is in sync. Now, obviously, they can't always be in sync, because when you go to work, if you are constantly feeling and thinking at the same level, it won't be appreciated. At work, you need a lot more thinking and behaving. But at home, if you come and you have your spouse and you're only like the men in this group, if you have a female partner, and you come home and you're only thinking and behaving and not feeling, you'll get in trouble, because at home you are required to feel more and think a little less. And behaviors need to stay kind of constant in both. So overall, the idea is balancing the three and not over functioning or under functioning constantly in one area. When we over function or under function, that's when it leads to poor mental health. So what is the importance of mental health? Why is it even important in our lives, right? Now, if you've ever had a fight with anybody early in the morning after you've woken up and gone to work, you're so affected that you can't think clearly because your concentration is affected. Your concentration goes for a toss. Then your feelings are affected. You feel awful, and your behaviors are affected. You can't work easily because, you just can't pay attention easily. So, what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to think about each of those areas in your life, and you want to be able to always balance them out. So the next time you're feeling uncomfortable, imbalanced, think, am I overthinking? Am I overfeeling? Am I overdoing? And that's a great way to get balance back into your life, right? So constantly, if you have poor mental health, your psychological world is not functioning optimally. This has a huge impact on your life. So now, right now, the lockdown is having a huge impact on our life. So let's talk about the lockdown and its implications for us, right? So with the lockdown, what we're feeling is an increased sense of anxiety, because we're all worried and fearful about what will happen. And this worry and fearfulness is about catching the virus. It's about our loved ones catching the virus, and it's also leading to a sense of loss within us, and a sense of our sense of self is very shaken right now. This loss and shaken sense of self is because there's a lot of ambiguous losses and real losses that are happening. Now, what are these losses? Our sense of predictability has been taken away. Our sense of control, justice, belief that we can protect each other, our older loved ones from bad things happening. It's almost like we're experiencing communal grief right now as we watch work, our healthcare, education, economic systems destabilizing around us, right? And so the losses that we're feeling change every day. And on one hand, while those are the bad things and we're all feeling them, the other side of it seems to be that it's forcing us to slow down. We're rethinking our priorities. We're rethinking what is really life meaning for us, what is important to do. And we're trying to connect with ourselves and others. I see everyone making videos, posting on YouTube, doing things that are constantly showing connection to others. Now, what does the lockdown mean for us on our mental health? Let's talk about that specifically in terms of your mental health right now, right? So, in terms of your mental health specifically, we're going to do something called a mental health check. If you can grab your paper and your pen, and you can just start writing down some of these things I'm talking about, just in terms of a check for you, or you can just do it by yourself and do a check in your mind as well. Both are perfectly fine, right? Now, your mental health check would look like this. So if you came to me and said, I need a mental health check, this is what it would look like, right? Sleep. How much are you sleeping each night? If it's between 7 to 9 hours each night, fantastic. If it's too much more or too less, you might be having some problems you don't realize are due to sleep issues. Concentration, inattention, the first things that go with sleep, BP issues, memory issues, irritability, so many other things associated with too much or too little sleep. So if your sleep is not good, something to worry about. Next, some basic things about appetite. Your appetite, are you eating normally? Do you eat the 3 to 4 meals a day? Have you lost or gained weight recently without really trying to lose or gain weight? If yes, and you aren't eating normally, it's time to check your physical and your mental health, right? Now, food is directly linked to our physical health and our mood as well. So it's really important that we eat normally. And if we don't, something might be wrong. And if it's happening a lot, you might need to seek some help. What about your physical health? When was the last time you had a medical checkup? If you come to me and you come with anger problems and you say, I need anger management, I'd first send you to the doctor to get a physical health check, because hormones in your body, your blood pressure, your sugar, they can cause anger issues. And I'll be treating the anger when we need to be treating a diabetes or a hypertension, right? So physical health needs to be checked at least once a year to ensure you are completely healthy. Then we come to my favorite, which is your mood. Now, this mood check can be done at any time just to notice how you're feeling. So, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being low depressed, 10 being normal happy, where is your mood normally? Anything below a 7 frequently, and something is wrong there that needs addressing with a specialist is what I would recommend, right? Now, suicidal thoughts. Are you currently having suicidal thoughts? And if the answer is yes or maybe, get help immediately. If no, wonderful. But if it's a yes or a maybe, this is something that needs immediate addressing, right? This is a question you can actually ask any of your family members and friends, because it's a safe question to ask. Asking this question, are you having suicidal thoughts, does not increase the likelihood that someone is going to be suicidal. It actually lowers the likelihood because it makes them feel protected and feel safe, and they have someone to talk to. So if you yourself are feeling this, please reach out for help. Next is substance use. How much alcohol or drugs are you using? If you're using alcohol in moderation, that's fine. But if you're using anything in excess, your mental health suffers for sure. For example, if you drink too much, you might even behave suicidally without ever even feeling suicidal in your normal life. That's what alcohol and drugs do. So please watch out for that. And your relationship with yourself and your relationship with others are two other crucial aspects of your mental health. Do you have close friends who you can depend on for support? If you do, fantastic. Your mental health is probably doing pretty well. If you don't, something needs to be worked on and changed for sure. This and the next one, which is your relationship with yourself, I'm going to talk to you more about this in a future slide. But an easy way to talk about your relationship with yourself is to think about, are my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in sync? And if they are in sync, then I'm probably well connected to myself, right? So that's the quickest mental health check you can do. And if you're doing well in all of those areas, give yourself a big pat on the back, because good job, your mental health is doing well right now. Now, moving on. What are some warning signs then that you're not doing well or someone in your life is not doing well? Here are these warning signs, and you can see them on your screen, and it always typically starts with a loss of concentration, negativity, and notice appetite, mood, sleep, substance use. The same mental health things are going to start happening more and more. And as you go down that list, you'll get into self-destructive behaviors, which is much worse. So if you're experiencing or someone you know is experiencing these things, please reach out and seek help. You know, when we get a headache or a cold or a fever, we always do something about it. These are the headache, colds, and fevers of mental health. You need to do something about it as well. Now, we're talking about mental health and warning signs. And before we get too depressing, let's talk about well-being, right? Now, you all took actually a well-being test. And I'm going to have that test up on the screen next. And I hope you all got the chance to take it in the pre-read. Now, if you didn't, that's perfectly fine. You can take it whenever you have the time to. Just notice, I'll point out a few items on this test. Just notice this scale. It's a well-being scale telling us whether you are doing well or not with your well-being. And it talks about optimism, relaxation, interest, energy, things like that. All you have to do is add all of the numbers to get a total score, and we look at your results right now. So let you all have your own results, so you can compare your marks on your results to the screen, to what you're seeing on the screen right now, right? So let me get that results up for you. There we go. Okay. So if you are above the blue line, folks, 0 to 32 or 32 to 40, you need some addressing of your mental health, because 0 to 32, it seems your score is very low, and you need to address it quickly or it will affect your life in insignificant ways. If it's between 32 and 40, your score is still below average, and you can start doing more to improve your mental well-being. Now, if you're below the blue line, which is 40 to 59, you are average. So good job. Keep doing what you're doing, but you can slip easily to below 40. So you need to keep doing what you're doing to make sure you stay healthy. And if you're between 59 and 70, fantastic. Again, pat yourself on the back, because you're doing a great job of staying healthy. Now, remember, if you don't keep doing it, and when you're stressed out, you stop doing it, you will slip again. So be careful, but keep doing what you're doing to stay healthy. Now, I noticed that I've been talking for a while, and I would be happy to answer some questions if you have any at this point. So let me take a few questions. Please send your questions to the host, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, hi, Diana. I think the participant has sent a lot of questions. So I'll pick up 3 and I'll try to bucket them for you.
Great.
So the first question has come from the participant as such, that how to overcome emotional blockage that comes in.
Yeah, that's a great question. How to overcome emotional blockage. You know, our emotions, I think of them as a balloon. And if you keep blowing into the balloon, blowing into the balloon, blowing into the balloon, it'll fill up and fill up and fill up and eventually burst, right? So emotional blockage suggests that either the air is not going into the balloon well, or it's not being let out well. So emotions need experiencing and expressing. If you experience your emotion and express your emotion, then there won't be blockage anymore. Emotions are like waves. They come over you from your head and they go down through your toes. So allow yourself to experience the emotion just like a wave. It will come and go. Don't push it away. When we feel strong emotion, we tend to push it away. And one of the things I'm going to tell you to do is to not push away your emotions in a future slide. So hopefully you learn how to do that a little bit better today as well. All right, that's one good question.
So, question. A participant has asked that what are some of the long-term implications on mental health due to this lockdown? I think you touched on some of the aspects, but if you can just take that one and specifically.
Sure. So, you know, I think everywhere that I read, and I'm up to date with all the things that are happening in America as well as in Europe and here in psychology, I don't think we all know what the long-term implications are, because nobody has actually lived through this. However, the consistent thing I can tell you is that I've seen is that everybody knows that if you don't take care of your mental health right now, you will have problems in the future. So it's not about whether the lockdown causes us long-term implications right now, but taking care of whatever's coming up right now. Emotional blockage is coming up, work on that. If you're feeling stressed out, work on that. If your health is suffering, work on that. That'll ensure future you won't have major problems.
Okay. The next question is of two part, Diana. So one part is how to be optimistic all the time, because it's not really always possible to be optimistic. And is there something managers can do to manage the individuals to the team members? The second part basically is very related to it, that there are certain books which do not care much about the optimism talked about, and but they still manage to be have better mental health. Your thoughts on that?
Well, so I think there's, when you say optimism, pessimism, what I'm thinking about is optimists think positively, pessimists think negatively. And this is the aspect in psychology, what we're looking at is your thoughts, the quality of your thoughts, right? So to answer the first question, you can't always be an optimist. Absolutely. I think we're just an optimist, happy all the time, thinking everything's going to be good. You'll never be prepared for the difficult things that come. You need to balance it out. You can be pessimistic sometimes. Like right now, I'm not too hopeful that the lockdown is going to be lifted on the 15th, but I'm hopeful that in 2 weeks or 3 weeks it will be indeed lifted, right? So being sensibly, cautiously optimistic is the way to do it. Now, the expectation is not that if you're optimistic or pessimistic, it will just be this way, but that you need to encourage people to think positively, realistically positively. So it's not about thinking saying, oh, everything will be fine. It's saying, even if things are not fine, I will be okay dealing with them. That is what I call optimism. Optimism is not everything will be fine, right? So if you have someone on your team who's a pessimist, who doesn't think that way, teach them to reorient their thinking. And this is something you can do very easily with therapy and with counseling, which is change your negative thoughts to more realistic positive thoughts. That's the way to change it. So I think the second question also is kind of answered in that way, that you can't always be optimistic, but I think that takes care of it as well.
Yeah. So one final question, I'll just take it.
Sure.
Interesting one. So one is due to lockdown, there are a lot of in terms of how to deal with family members. There are senior citizens at home, and people are there completely all time at home. A very related question somebody has asked, that career trajectory also in certain cases are taking a nosedive. So with all those things happening, how do people take care of their mental health? Is there something which you can throw some light on?
Absolutely. And I think, I am going to throw some light on that in terms of how to take care of your mental health during this lockdown with what we're talking about with pause. But your career trajectory, sorry, I can't say that word apparently, and the anxiety that it's bringing up in terms of, losing money, to losing in the stock market, to losing your job, to, your salary being cut. All of these things are indeed scary. Now, the truth is we don't know what's going to happen in the near future. So let's not catastrophize, right? What we can do right now is only deal with the things we can control and give up the things that we can't control. So if it is that your career is bothering you so much and you're worried about it, have a talk with your manager about what it means for your career, and prepare yourself. If the manager says yes and you might lose your job, prepare yourself for what is to come over the next several months. But most of the time we are going to get answers that tell us we don't know what's about to happen, right? So in that case, whatever you can control. If you need to update your resume, preparing yourself because of the anxiety, do that. But also talk to yourself and tell yourself everybody in the world is going through this and we will get through it. Please know, as a human being, you are resilient and you have a lot of resources within you that will get you through this. Yes, you might make a little less money in the meantime, but you will come back to being where you were, because psychology wise, best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So if you were high in the past, if crisis hits, you go down, you will go back to being high again after the crisis is over. Trust that to deal with your anxiety.
Thank you, Diana. That was so informative. I think talking to oneself is something I really take it. So thanks everyone for the queries. I think I have a lot of questions as well, but due to paucity of the time, I think we'll continue. I'll ask the questions in between as soon as the QA session happens again. Diana, over to you. You can take it forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so moving on then. Let's talk about well-being. Okay, what is well-being made up of? And it's really simple. I'm not going to make it difficult at all. It's two things. It's feeling good, and functioning well. Internally, do you feel good? Externally, are you functioning well? If that's all you can think of as well-being, that's enough, because that's really all it is. Internally, feeling good is a check within yourself. How is my mood? How am I feeling? Happy? Am I feeling sad? Externally, am I able to get up, do the work I'm supposed to do, function normally during my lockdown time? Am I able to wake up at the same time, go to bed at the same time, eat my meals every day? That's functioning. Am I able to log into work, answer questions? Maybe I'm not being super productive, but during the lockdown, nobody can be super productive. Don't expect that of yourself right now, right? So to think about well-being, for each of us, it's a very different thing. I want you to think about the first two things that come to mind when you think about your own sense of well-being. For me, it's waking up in the morning in a good mood and looking forward to fun things. Those constitute well-being for me. And it might be different for you. And each day, check with yourself, am I feeling those two things? And if I am, I'm probably being pretty good, right? So think about two things for yourself. Now, let's look specifically at how do we improve the sense of well-being. And the next slide will tell you that. Surprise, surprise. It is called pause. Well-being is just a pause away. Now, what does pause stand for? Purpose, activity, you, socialize, and exercise. And I'm kind of going over the same things as you'll start to notice, because as a psychologist, there are very few tips that we need to function well and to have a really good life. So let's go over the first one. What I'm going to do is give you these and give you a challenge that I'm going to leave with you. And for each of them, the challenge you can do in your own time, right? But it's easy to remember. Purpose. Let's start with the first one. What does purpose actually mean? Purpose brings healthy living to us. You know that saying you're seeing on your screen. I don't know if you can actually see it, unfortunately, but there's a great saying. I'll tell you what it is. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. This was written by Viktor Frankl, and Viktor Frankl survived the concentration camps, right? So he knows what well-being is about, because he went through one of the worst experiences a human can. Similar, I guess, to the lockdown we're going through, but a much lower level for us than for him, for sure, right? So the purpose means that we need to have our life have some purpose, because well-being is associated with purpose. If you have purpose, then you typically are making good meaning out of your life. So meaning making and goal setting bring us purpose. Now, what do I mean by meaning making? Ask yourself, what does this lockdown mean to me, and what is the purpose of my life right now, right? What does life mean to me in general? And what is my life's purpose? What is the meaning of my life? What is the purpose of my life? These are the questions to ask yourself. When you can start to answer these questions, that's when you're going to start to feel, okay, this starts to make sense. Now, how do you do this? You have goals, because when you have a purpose, my purpose right now is to ensure that, I make sense to all of you. So my goal is to say things in a way that makes sense to you. In the same way, my goal for life right now is to connect better with my family, spend more time with my children. And that's going to be a plan I have for the next year or two while they are growing up. That purpose helps me set my goals. So first, you need to think about, what is the purpose of my life? How do I make sense of my life? And then write down a statement for personal life goals and professional life goals. That is going to be the challenge you have. Do this in your own time after you thought about what the purpose of my life is, right? Moving to the next one then, activity. With activity, what are we talking about? How much are we really doing? The question you want to ask yourself, and we are doers. We do, from hoarding toilet paper to groceries to everything. We're eager to do more and more and more. So ask yourself, is there balance? With my team, with my teammates, with the people that work with me, are they balanced, or are they overdoing things? You see someone staying at work for 12, 15 hours continuously, even when they don't need to. You need to talk to them about balance in their lives. How much balance do we need? And how much control do we feel and do we need in our life are two important things to ask ourselves, right? Now, control is important because the reason we do as much as we do is to feel a sense of control. So if you, feel no control, you're fully anxious. If you feel too much control, you're always, stuck up and never able to relinquish that control. And so either you are looking the mindful, which is cluttered mind, or the really mindful, which is being able to do things in a balanced manner. So your challenge for activity is to do this for 1 week. Write down all the activities that you do, even on lockdown. And by next Friday, look at that list and ask yourself, what needs to be added? Then look at it and say, what can I remove from it? That's the way you're going to start balancing your activity out in your life. These are two ways: purposeful living and balancing activities are the two ways in which mental well-being really flourishes, right? Moving on to the next one, which is my favorite one, you. What is you about? It's just about being you and being connected to yourself, right? What does being connected to yourself mean? Let me tell you that I have students, I have couples come to me, and when I tell them be connected to yourself, so talk to each other, do you all connect to each other? And they say, yeah, we talk about our kids, about work in general. I say, do you ever sit and face to face and talk without phones, without TV? And they say, no. I say, okay, do that. 15 minutes a day, do that. And they get this worried look like, wait, what am I going to talk about with them for 15 minutes without the phone or the TV or the kids? That's what being connected to yourself is about. It's about connecting to yourself, understanding yourself. So sit and experience doing nothing for 15 minutes without judging what you're doing. Just sit there. If distressing emotions come up, like the emotional blockage question we had, sit with the distressing emotion, right? It really means sit, breathe in, let the emotion come, feel what you're feeling. If you need to cry, cry it out. It expresses the emotion, and then the emotion goes away. That's what you have to do to stay connected to yourself. Connect with your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. To do this, engage in a solo activity that gives you some joy. So this might mean, doing something just for yourself without anybody else, right? Reading a book, maybe doing art, and write 10 things down that are unique to you, about you, that you can do. If you can't come up with that list, ask people in your life for that list, because sometimes it's hard for us to figure out 10 unique things. And that asking people in your life leads to the next slide, which is socializing. I talked about the importance of friends and family. So connect with others. This is a key aspect of mental well-being. The first question when people call me and ask me about kids, about themselves, I ask them, do you have friends? If they don't have friends, I know their mental well-being has suffered for sure. The quality of your friendships matters a great deal. Most of us forget to socialize when we're really stressed out. Most of us forget when we're stressed out, we do all the things that we're not supposed to do, and we forget the things we're supposed to do. Socializing is important. How do you socialize? 2 challenges. 1, have 1 conversation a week with somebody that you feel deeply for and you feel deeply connected to. This is for you to let your emotions out and to feel connection with others, right? This is emotionally healthy for you. And the second is to talk to somebody who doesn't have somebody to talk to. Maybe an older neighbor, maybe a friend you know is living alone. Do this for you and for them, because when you are there for somebody else, well-being goes way up in being there for other people. Socializing is about connecting with others, but you can only do that if you connect to yourself as well, right? So we went over now P for purpose, A for activity, U for you and connecting to yourself, S for socialize, and the last, my most and least favorite one that you see on your screen is exercise. Now, what do I mean by exercise? I really, really hate that word, and I'm not somebody who's always been thrilled to exercise, I'll be honest. So when my doctor says exercise, I say, oh God, please. I've learned the truth now that everything is really about, treatment-wise is about exercise. If you think about it, I say thoughts, I say feelings. Thoughts and feelings are just chemical reactions in your brain. There's a neuron firing, there's a chemical reaction happening, and you're having a thought. When you exercise, the sharpness of those thoughts increases. So what is recommended with exercise? Everything mental is really physical. So exercise 30 minutes of cardiovascular activity. This means something that gets your heart rate pumping and gets you sweating. That's really, really what's important here. Now, most of us know what exercise means. But exercise improves mood, it improves, your mind, it improves sharpness, it improves concentration, it improves attitude. So if people on your team, for example, aren't exercisers, make it a challenge on your team for people to exercise. It'll be really helpful to them. So the challenge here is do anything if you haven't exercised yet. Walk up and down the stairs, take a walk in your lane, take a walk in your apartment. Move to get your heart rate up, not your HR up, which is human resources, but your heart rate up, right? And if you're already doing it, then maybe get someone else in your life to join you. This way you're socializing as well as helping somebody else out with their mental well-being, right? So we got 5 things to do: PAUS and E. That's a cue for me to pause and to go over some more questions with you. I know I ran through the last 5, but to me, they're really simple things that we all do. And really, mental health, psychology is about doing the simplest things that get you to well being. It's not complicated, it's not difficult. Do these things, encourage people in your lives to do these things, and it will lead to better health for you. Thank you all for listening to me. And now I'm happy to take some questions, since it sounds like there were more questions. If you have more questions right now, feel free to send them to the host, and I'll be happy to answer them as best as I can.
Yeah, hi Raina. I think I have questions coming in.
Yeah.
So one participant has asked that the whole day news and data points are coming are quite negative.
Yes.
And how do we actually come over it, and how do we manage that?
Great question. It's a simple thing. Stop allowing information into your system. Think of yourself as Iron Man, okay, with the Iron Man suit, right? You need to understand that information outside affects this part of us inside. So think of an Iron Man suit and allow that Iron Man suit to be taken off only 3 times a day for a pre-specified time. This means that at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, before it, you are allowed to look at the news, because the news doesn't change that fast, right? Now look at the news 3 times a day and really set this limit for yourself. And after you look at it for 5 to 10 minutes, make sure that you have something to do. So before breakfast, you do this, so that then you actually turn your phone off to go sit and eat breakfast, and you no longer then are needing to actually you're not needing to actually constantly be on the news, if you will, right? Now 3 times a day, do something after, and do something to calm the stress down that you get when you have a lot of anxiety happening as well.
Okay. Next is a very interesting one, Diana, and I like the question. That due to all these things, sitting at home, people may be losing the interest to read certain thing or read a book. So how do they inculcate the interest again? That is one. The second part is, are there any books which you suggest people to go through it, or maybe have a read through it, so that they can get some idea that what are the books they can look for?
Great question. I think reading something, reading anything is great idea. Right now, access to books is also kind of limited, but I know a lot of libraries have opened up a lot of books to us now. Now, if you're not able to get down to reading, and then what I recommend is, firstly, have a book that you like, an author that you like already. Right. My favorite right now, I'm reading The Body by Bill Bryson. He's one of my favorite authors, just because he's fun to read. But really, any book out there is a great book to read. Pick up a book and put your phone away and start reading. Now, to do this, you need to set the same time every day to read. So if you read before bed, make sure you read for 10 minutes every day before bed. And within a week, you'll start looking forward to reading again, right? Now, if you can read more than that, fantastic. But for me, it's always reading when I'm eating and reading when I'm in bed. Those are 2 ways I ensure I read, because all the other times I'm too busy. So those are simple ways to do it. In terms of what books to read, honestly, that's an open-ended question, and there are lots and lots of books out there that you can read. So I don't know that my taste would match yours, but I'd be happy to assist you with that off of this platform.
Sure. So I think you may send me some of the books and or the names of the suggested book. I'll mail it to participants.
Sounds good.
A more interesting question coming up, that due to all technology and everything getting digital, there are a certain sect or certain people who are feeling outdated with the digital thing, and they get into a mental anxiety or stress kind of thing. So how to deal with it? That's the kind of question people are framing.
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about where technological advances are so fast that we are not able to keep up with them. And as a result of that, unfortunately, anxiety does come up. Now, recognize what your boundaries of competence are and what your limits are. Please know that as human beings, we are not supposed to be able to do everything just because we were told we should do it. We can only do what we can do. So, I've realized that I don't have expertise with technology, and so I delegate that to somebody else. Now, if it is something that's needed for my work, then I'm certainly happy to try to learn it and do it as best possible. But for the rest of it, I've turned 40 a couple of years ago, and I realized I'm not going to get everything done that I need to get done in life. So I might as well do the things that really are purposeful and meaningful to me, and the rest I delegate. For example, this webinar, I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself without the help of the strategist. So I told them, you handle everything and I will do all of the stuff that I am good at. A great way to manage that tension, because if you told me to do all of this, I'd be sitting here with a ball of anxiety, basically. So whatever you can do, do, and what you can't do, delegate. And if it is that you need to do something different because technology is not your thing, there are lots of things in life that you can do that technology is not needed for. Careers don't have to be only one thing. Careers are seen to be a lifelong thing where you change careers over a lifetime as well. So think of life that way.
So another one very interesting question, and you would like it, that there are many tasks which people do in office, and there are certain tasks which are very small in terms of work doing, and they don't give the feeling of motivation to the team members to do. So how to deal with certain tasks which are very lethargic or maybe not motivating enough for the team to do? How can a manager lift them up or give them some ideas to get that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if somebody can come up with a super answer, we would make a lot of money off of that, folks. But the answer is a pretty straightforward one. I say, motivation is of two kinds, right? Intrinsic and extrinsic. So, research always shows that closer to the date when you get paid, people do a lot more work than on days after the payment has come. So after your salary day, work drops and it goes back up again. Your maid will always show up right at the end of the month, but she won't show up at the beginning of the month after you paid her. So that's motivation for us, right? Now, certainly there's no extrinsic motivation and you need intrinsic motivation. That is certainly harder for things that you don't like. Like, I hate writing reports, right? So I do them when my brain is most active, firstly. So mornings when I have active brain time, that's when I'll do it. And I'll always use a sandwich approach, right? So I don't like this activity, so I will do a really fun activity. Then I'll do this activity I don't like, and then another fun activity after, so that I have exciting things to do in the middle with this boring activity. We all got to do the boring activities. But if we can sandwich them into fun activities, for your team members, for example, that will be a great way to do it. So that's what I would recommend. Also, don't ever underestimate the power of giving positive feedback. Even little things like good job, I'm really proud of you, makes a huge difference to somebody's self-esteem. So do that to motivate people as well.
Lovely answer. I think as a manager, we can follow that. Small compliments can really work wonders. Yes. One last question which I've got, and I've got many, but I've bucketized and asked you so that there are less questions for you to answer. How do somebody recognize overthinking? Because that is something which is getting into mind today. And how do we take care of that? One is, how do we recognize an overthinking? And then how do we take care?
Right. So if you're overthinking, and if you're thinking you're overthinking, you're probably overthinking, by the way. So chances are, if you're already wondering, am I overthinking? Yes, then you are. Now, firstly, don't just trust your own brain, because sometimes you can't trust it fully. Ask people in your life, okay? The best feedback is asking people in your life, listen, am I overthinking this? And if they say yes, you are overthinking it, okay? Now, how do you not overthink? Start writing down all the thoughts that you're having about whatever issue it is, because we overthink specifically about some issue, right? So did I do this PPT right? Oh my gosh, I went over it 25 times, multiple, with my cousin and my husband, because they are stuck with me over here. And I said, look at it and look at it and look. And they kept saying, yes, yes, yes. Trust that to begin with, right? Now, what was I worried about? Write down everything you're worried about so that it unclutters the brain. When we write down all our thoughts, we can see the pattern that we're worried about, and that helps us change whatever it is. So what was I worried about? I was going to go over the time provided to me, right? I didn't want to do that. So that's why write it down, make sure you can take care of it. That's the way to control the overthinking. Journaling certainly helps. Writing down things always helps. So if you're an overthinker, write everything down and use either your phone and open a note and start typing away and keep it on there so you never forget, so it stays out of your brain and on your phone, or use a journal, use paper and pen and write it. That's a great way to help overthinking reduce.
I think one can just ask a very related question, that what should be the frequency of journaling?
Whatever you want it to be. Okay. To start with, it comes up based on the needs. So if you feel like I want to say something and I don't have anyone to say it to, then start journaling. Now you can do it every day at a particular time. The key with any behavior, do it at the same time every day, to make it a habitual behavior. Like you brush your teeth when you wake up every morning at the same time, right? Like that. Do it as a habitual behavior. It will become more and more common for you to do. But the frequency totally depends on you. Some days when you're stressed out, you might write a lot more. When you're tired, you might not write at all. That's okay. But make sure at least you do it once a week is what we would recommend.
Okay, so that takes us to the end. On a lighter side, journal it, but don't journal it on the social media. You might get into trouble. So, Meg, over to you. You can take it forward.
Well, I just wish that we can go on and on. The topic is very interesting. So can't thank you enough, Dinah, and to all the participants for making it very interactive. And I know I've been chatting with Atul, the host. He's going bonkers with the questions. So sincere apologies for people whose questions couldn't be answered here. But trust us, we will cover the answers on the follow-up communication when we do it post the webinar. And personally, I believe that, as a leader, as a parent, as a participant, I've learned a lot. I mean, it's not just about the power of pause, but its power and the practice of pause. And then thanks for simplifying it for us, Daida, because on a lighter note, and I can see my friend Akshay is already live on the video. He's one of the person whom I've been asking some questions around the psychology. And before I was introduced to Dinah, when I used to ask him this question, why do I get sleepless nights? And this well-wisher used to tell me, you're getting sleepless nights because you're awake in somebody else's dreams. And I used to trust him. But Dinah, thanks for uncovering that myths. We know now what is the reason for the sleepless nights. Can't thank you enough. Once again, thank you all the participants. I personally believe that the images are actually, the pause for a life. So I request all the participants, if you can turn on your videos so that we can take a capture of a lovely memory of this wonderful session. And we'll definitely share with all of you. Doesn't matter if some of you are in the kitchen, some of you are in your drawing room, living room, doesn't matter. I think this is wonderful. I mean, as the lights are getting on, I can see amazing screen. I've tasked somebody to take a picture. I don't want my picture to come up with the camera on, so definitely picture will be captured. And once again, wishing everyone a happy Easter in advance. Have a lovely evening ahead of you. Have a good weekend. And as Dana said, let's, now that we understood and discovered the power of pause, let's practice this pause and let's unlock this lockdown. Here I sign off. Meg Risaldar. Thank you so much, Atul. And once again, Dinah, and to all the participants, thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate
it. Next Friday, see you here at 4 o'clock. I'll be sending the details for the next webinar. Happy to host you next Friday as well. Thank you. Thank you for the active participation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Here I sign off. Thank you.